Hello and welcome back to A Splash of Paint, brought to you in association with the SAA, Society for All Artists. Now it's time to put the finishing touches to our Try Your Hand At project, where I'm going to show you the last stages of this Chatsworth House in the winter scene. This is where we got to before the break, and we're just going to carry on and just paint in the snowy area, put a bit of water and get these nice tall trees. So the first thing I want to do is just put a little bit more time into the house, and for this I'm using a gold rigger, which is a very long pointy brush. Nice point on the end. I've got the same dark colour, which has dried up a little bit, obviously, but watercolour never goes off. Put a little bit of water with it, and it's ready to go. And as you probably know, all houses have windows on, and Chatsworth House has got oodles, if that's a real word. So I'm just going to put them in, and you would paint them as little tiny L shapes, really. You can put as many on as you feel you need to. Nobody's counting, unless the Duke of Devonshire's watching this programme. And there's also some just over this side as well. It's the same kind of L-shape effect. Of course, the ones on this left are very small. Clean brush on tissue, so there's a little bit of water on there. And then it's just nice just to soften those little areas away. And then water the colour down a little bit. And there's little bits of trimmings in between some of these areas. I tend to find that the finger is very good at tidying up lines that you're not necessarily happy with. So I'm just putting little bits of what I call nonsense painting, which is just random things, really. I'll put a little bit of shading on the roof there of the house too. A little bit of detail, but that's pretty much as much detail as I want for the minute. I can always come back and add more as I go along. It's all about the snow at this stage, and the first thing to do is create a bit of contrast. So back to the big brush, the 20 natural grey, quite strong. Don't be afraid of the dark on this one. And where the water is, I'm going to wiggle down the edge. I've done that before. And then just bring it to that area. Then I'll clean the brush, wipe it over tissue, use some burnt sienna, pale. And then I want to do the lighter side of the water. But the idea there is to drag the grey out. So I'm pulling it in this direction, and it should soften the grey in, and the burnt sienna should start to come through. In fact, you could even push the boat out and get a little bit of natural yellow. Nearly said burnt sienna then, and just pull that in as well. So you get all the colours that you've used in the picture so far, apart from the blue, coming through the water there. Now, if I go for the size 6 brush, clean it, wipe it dry, go for the strong grey, which we've still got over there, but quite a dry brush, which is the opposite to a wet one, so we'll take some of it off. Turn that on its side, like this. And then just from some of these points that we've created, I'm literally going to do these downward flicks, which, when you see the picture on the side, doesn't really do much, but when you turn it back over in a few minutes, you should see how it creates that lovely effect of depth to the water. You see it creates that sort of drop, and then over the top of all this, you sort of stand back and you hover a few times, and when you think you've built up the confidence, touch the paper. The quicker you do this, the better, really. So that's creating the ripples in the water, and the downward flicks also kick in as well. There we go. Let's use some blue, some natural blue, with the big brush, and go for the shadows in the snow. So I'll start off just by adding some shadows coming this way from this background, leaving the light patches, and then we'll do some coming from this side as well. It's all about blending when you do snow shadows. Clean brush, wipe it on tissue, and then just soften those lines into the paper until they almost fade away. There we go. Size 6 brush and the same blue. Just going to add some shadows coming up from this area. Now, I'm working up from the water's edge at this point. Clean brush, tissue, and then make those lines disappear away. But if I said you've got to take the end away, that is one of the most important things there. Get your end away, because it needs to disappear. And you keep using that little bit of water and taking those lines up. Take the end away again. Scrub it. Bit of texture is quite nice actually, it gives a nice effect. And you can start to see how that's really moulding the actual snow, creating distance. There we go. So that's okay for the snow for the minute. I'll paint in the trees and then we'll come back and have a look at the snow, but you can see that working. In fact, I'm just going to add a bit of a line down there because I need a separation to make the house go further away. So that's one of those things that you look back on and just notice. In fact, you could actually pull in some tree shadows coming down from there as well. The little shadows that cast from the background. Okay, we're painting some large trees, and for this I'm using the big brush. The dark colour, natural grey, a little bit of burnt sienna. Is a nice sort of wood grey colour. The light's coming this way. I'm going to paint it in. And there's two trees. Now that bit's a little bit wet there, so I'm just going to be a little bit careful and just kind of wipe the paint away from those areas so it doesn't bleed too much. A little bit's okay. As long as the paint's thick enough, it will be fine. But I'm using strong, almost an acrylic strength of watercolour to go straight up for these tall trees. There we go. And then we'll come down there, and then just making sure that these are going off to the sides. I'm going to clean the brush and use the 6 with the natural yellow that I've still got in the palette from when I did the house earlier on, and then I'm going to use that colour to blend over the lighter side of the tree. As you can see, that makes a lovely kind of ashen colour for the trees, really nice. It mixes with the grey. And then if you scrub so the colours actually blend together, you can see how it almost lifts the background colour up. So I'm making sure that the grey line fades into the yellow. There we go. Same on this one. Give it a bit of a scrub as you work your way up. Perfect. And then again, the dark colour's still there. So just a few branches. Not too many. Attach them to the tree. Branching out again. That's just about as many branches as we need for that. It's worth noting that if you do bring a branch out from the centre of the tree on the lighter side, it looks as though it actually is coming from the middle of the tree, which is quite nice. The natural yellow is there as well, just on some of the thicker branches, just to say it's catching a bit of light on one side. And then really rigger brush for detail, and just add in a couple of fine natural grey with a bit of burnt sienna. Detailed branches, don't want too many of those on. It's nice to work slightly dry brush on these because it does give the effect of the branches being a bit more delicate. So I've not got a huge amount of colour on. Just going to bring a couple of branches from this side just to balance things up. There's obviously a tree over this side of the painting there as well. That's looking quite a nice little area. And then just a bit of rough, folks, to finish off. A little bit of rough on the landscape, which is a dry brush with the size 6. And it's always important just to bring that little bit of detail around the base of the trees and around these areas. Use your finger as a blending tool if you need to. This is just grey with a bit of burnt sienna, the same tree colour basically. And it's just adding as much as you feel it needs. You can literally go as far as you want. You can even make the impression of like a little bit of a path or something going where people have walked towards the house. There we go, and then very, very thick grey, a little bit of burnt sienna. Nice and definite colour that. And then it's always nice just to go along the edge of the water in this foreground area. Pull a few ripples out from that as well. If I use the medium tree brush upside down, you can actually add, not always easy to see this one, but you can always add a few little blades of grass, because you always get a few little grass areas poking out of the snow. A few taps and random things, but I think that's probably just about where we want to be with that picture. In fact, a lovely finishing touch actually is the extra large brush with some nice juicy dark burnt sienna with a bit of grey, and then just add in the odd little bit of dark leaf to the tree, especially at the top. I think we can say that is a finished watercolour there, folks. I hope that's inspired you to have a go at creating your own watercolour work of art. And remember, we're always keen to see how you get on. Why not share examples of your work on the SAA website? Simply visit saa.co.uk for details. Well, folks, time for me to pack away today's paints and palettes. It's time for our final break now, but join us in part 4 when SAA professional Paul Beattie demonstrates another artistic essential. And I'll be helping to solve a few more of your artistic dilemmas. We'll see you very soon.